Alright, it's finally here. No 02. Continuing the new player guide, and this is going to be a specific build order. A specific build order for the Rusviets this time. This is Rusviets build order. I define this as fastest reserves as possible build order, right? Like, the goal of this build order is to get both your R1 and your R2 out as fast as possible. Both your R1 and your R2 have a specific purpose, and they counter a specific, like, build, of course. Now, it's important to note that in all of these builds that I'm going to be showing you, I'm going to be showing you a total of 6 builds, 2 for each faction. These are not necessarily meta builds. These are not necessarily even good builds. The point of what I'm showing you today is to help you to understand how we can begin to conceive of a build. Having the very general ideas of, like, hey, you know what, if we get these units, they kind of accomplish this, and these units do that. We put them together, we have this kind of composition. How do we get that in the fastest way possible, etc.? So that is what this is about. Sort of chaining from our reserve video where I rambled about how you can view the reserves. You're gonna sort of see that in action, and then in application in a match against a bot, right? It's real, right? We don't care about how strong our opponent is, right? We'll put him on insane. Ooh, he's insane. We'll kill the bot easily. It's not even an issue. And the build order will, of course, also play differently on which map you're on. But we're not concerned about that either. I'm going to show you the exact order of what you're building, what you're trying to accomplish, and just sort of help you to understand what a build order can look like. So we're going. So here's the build. Here's the build. We're going to go Victor. Popo V. And this build is fastest reserves possible, right? Not necessarily the fastest reserves possible. The idea is we want both of our reserves out on the map as quickly as possible. And this reserve is also going to be, as you can see, we're going to go double infantry, double vanguard, Victor and R2, kolo. Double vanguard, Victor, kolo. That's our reserve. The strength is we're gonna have 2 extra squads for cheap early in the game. That is going to help us deal with enemy aggression. If our opponent is not being aggressive, or our opponent is being greedy, we could potentially punish them by having more things on the map. But if our opponent also has lots of things on the map, we have the means of defending ourselves. Right, so this is anti, infantry spam, anti-aggression, as well as the option to be offensive if our opponent is being greedy. Victor, very good against infantry spam. Great against it. He has lots of AoE in his abilities. Kolo, also great against groups of enemies. Infantry spam, Kolo's on it. Shooting frisbees that blow up and knock groups of enemies down, and does damage in an area, in a pretty big area too. So this is, we don't want to die. We don't want to die to enemy infantry. In addition to that, Victor and the Kolo do kind of transition decently into the mid and late game. The weakness, as you're potentially going to see, I don't know what this bot's doing. The weakness is if our opponent does not go infantry spam, they go workshop first, there's opportunity to punish them a little bit, right? Punish them because they're going to have less infantry on the map. So we can potentially do that. But once they start getting their mechs out, their first mech and their second mech, they are going to have about a 3 to 4 minute window to do damage to us before we can get Victor and the Kolo out. Once we get that, we sort of stabilize again, and you'll sort of see how it plays out. We can tell by our reserve, right? We're scouting our opponent already by the reserve. Got a flamethrower, Zubov, and a mech. So they're not going for early game aggression.
Command. Stand by.
Ideally, they're probably going to want to get their reserves out as fast as possible. Because all of their power, all of their cheap units,
Yes, sir.
are sitting in their R2. So R2, so we're gonna have a stronger power spike with our R1.
New request? Have the rest report here. We'll
All right, so we're getting our
here.
iron, oil, standard,
Get
safe.
some engineers here.
Building our engineer right on the appropriate timing.
Have the rest report here.
Vanguard infantry.
Right.
Moving out.
Each map is going to be different, right? I'm going to put 2 squads next to this for this oil cache. We're going to fight for
More
it.
oil.
Tell
We
us
see
what is
many of
needed
them.
personally. Grenades
We're going to
are
put up the
a good
grenades, chain command them to the center
tool. Keep out
until we
of
see
the
what's
open.
going on.
Another mission. Vanguard infantry. We need it all.
Grenadiers reporting.
This guy can pick up the oil. We see our opponent out
Ready
here.
to go.
We can fight him even because we have the opportunity to.
Something to report?
That's
We'll
fine.
rally new unit here.
That's all fine with us. We even throw a grenade. We don't care. We don't really worry about winning or losing these fights. Like, this is specifically about the build order. We're doing it. Great.
We need it all.
He wants to fight more? Okay.
What is there to do?
We'll fight more. We'll send the grenadiers over here. We want to get our oil pump as fast as possible. We're looking at our oil.
New
Right, we'll
job,
build our
fixing
barracks.
it up's not a
Barracks is
problem.
like 5 seconds late, not a big deal.
Equipment?
But now we're building our
Yeah,
barracks.
yeah.
We'll chain command the engineers to go get things. Hold down shift to chain command. Look at the fight.
Is there a
Cool.
place? Shoot them.
People are fighting.
New orders.
Getting our oil pump. Etc. The next part of the build order is actually getting an oil pump. So we're building our barracks,
Precious, no
and then we're gonna upgrade an oil pump.
We're upgrading
Bam.
the pump.
We're doing it.
Yes,
Right.
so.
We'll leave this here. Let's just assume you don't win everything, right? You don't win all the resources on the map. We'll leave this here. You don't win it all.
There's none better.
This guy's hurt.
Time
We'll
to
treat him.
retreat.
We're scared.
What is there to do?
This guy's
This
going
way.
Rambo, where he's scared.
Marshal,
Let's retreat them. Who
marshal!
cares? We'll retreat him.
Need a team.
Tell us what
Engineers
is
chain
needed.
command. He's building.
What is it?
So we went barracks, oil pump, and just so you guys know,
Resources.
um,
Group of enemies sighted.
Equipment's
this
ready.
all like the build order written out will be in the video's description.
More
We'll
volunteers.
reinforce. Great.
Keep behind.
Building complete.
We're fighting our opponent more, taking advantage of opportunities that we see, etc.
Get to it.
We need to get
Something
back
to
the
report.
job.
Building upgrade complete.
Okay, our barracks is
Is
built.
there a plan this
Our next thing
time?
we're getting is our R1, 320 iron. So now we're just waiting for iron.
Just give the order. March in.
Just waiting for iron.
Always use cover.
We want our R1 out as soon as possible. Oh, we're losing. We'll get the heck out of there.
New orders. Wait in cover. Shoot.
Another mission? This way.
What is
Right.
it?
So we're microing and we're looking at our iron. We got it. Look at that. Bam. Got our iron.
Handle this.
Building our R1.
Have the rest report here.
Next step, get an iron mine upgrade.
Vanguard made it
The
out.
getting the
New
R1
request.
and the iron mine upgrade could kind of happen at the same time.
To help.
You sort of get a feel for it of what you can get first.
They're ready to
If there's
go.
lots of fighting happening and you're sort of low on the iron department,
Engineers here. Going
you
to
might want
cover.
to get the iron mine first if you have the oil for it. You can get the iron mine as soon as you get the 60 oil. But either way, you sort of
What is
flip flop
that to
between the
do?
two.
Reserve forces
Not a big
have
deal.
arrived.
So R1, iron upgrade.
Instructions.
Another mission.
Engineers are coming
What
back.
does
Now
the
we have our
motherland
force.
require? Pushing that way.
This is what we're working
There's
with.
none better.
These engineers
here.
could be on the cannon,
We'll
maybe.
pop armor like bugs. New orders.
You even build extra engineers to go pick something else up. We don't really do that on this map,
Building upgrade
other than the field
complete.
cannon.
What is
So we'll
that?
build a
Cannon ready to deploy. Team.
we'll build extra
Mobilizing
engineers.
your engineers.
They're ready to
Now we're
go.
fighting.
We'll clear the route.
They are not alone.
Attack.
We'll go fight. We'll attack. Maybe we're scared. We'll defend a
What
little
does
bit.
the motherland require?
Another
I don't want them to
mission.
take my oil pump. It's upgraded, right? This is important to
Low
us.
steady.
We
Get
can
to
do
it.
it.
What is
So
it?
the next thing is we need the workshop now, because we need our cheapest means of getting
Looking for volunteers.
Engineers here.
to our
Need a team.
R2.
They're shooting here.
Tell us what is needed.
And we upgraded an oil pump first, right? So we already almost have the
Chicken
oil
begin.
Looking for volunteers.
for the workshop.
Engineers here.
But we don't have enough iron. So the barracks is more expensive iron-wise. So the workshop, we can actually get the workshop faster than a
What
advanced
is there to
barracks.
do? What is there to do?
The enemy is capturing
Always
a
use cover.
strategic position.
But also, too, part of the build order, we want to tech. We want to be able to tech right into our advanced workshop as soon as possible. So we are
Looking for
skipping
volunteers.
an advanced
Prepare
barracks
to
for as
fire.
long as we can. building our workshop.
What is it?
We went barracks,
Precious normal.
oil pump upgrade, R1 iron mine upgrade, workshop.
Here.
All the while we're playing the game, right? And that can be hard. That can be hard sometimes. He tried to steal our flag and that was scary.
Another mission.
It's okay to be scared sometimes.
Posting and cover.
Set up our defenses again.
What is there to do? Always
We're
use cover.
clearly winning. He doesn't have his iron mine. Awesome.
New request?
Barracks, this workshop's almost done. And we're looking for 600 iron, 170 oil. Based off our build order, we're looking like we're going to line up decently. Not
Building
great, but
complete.
decently enough,
As
right?
fast as our feet will take.
And don't worry about always having like extra iron or floating lots of extra iron, because if there's lots of fighting
Sure enough,
happening,
he was
There's
cheating.
none better.
He had
you're not gonna
three
have that
cards
extra
up his
iron.
sleeve.
we have this
Vanguard
extra
infantry.
iron because there hasn't been
Plan
enough
this
conflict.
time.
Or the opposite might be true,
Enemy
which is
units
happening
sighted.
here actually. Look, we have way more oil. We're about to hit our oil
Looking
mark.
for armor. What is it?
We hit our oil mark, but we're still like 150 iron behind. That's
Engineers
just because
here. Keep out of the open.
we've had to reinforce some squads. We've been fighting. We got an oil pump first. We've been dishing it out.
Something to
That's
report?
okay, right? Because how much iron you have, more or less, is going to really depend on how much fighting is happening with your infantry. Because to reinforce them costs you iron. Oh, he's got flamethrowers, big push happening. Going to steal our
Just
pump.
give them-
Good thing
make
we're
it
ready
count
for it. We're
his
defending.
side.
The enemy is after
We
our
hit our
oil.
600 iron.
Beat them back.
Bam.
Vanguard
We got our
fire!
R2 coming out right now. 7-minute mark. This R2 can come out somewhere between 6 to 7 minutes, depending on how well the match goes for you. I don't think you can walk a mech down there, so that's interesting that people's doing that.
Multiple enemies sighted. The enemy
And
is
then after our
after
R2,
oil.
Need something done?
we get our second iron mine upgrade. As soon as we have the oil for it, second iron mine upgrade,
Forces have arrived.
There's plenty to do.
etc.
One of our units is now veteran.
And now we have the means of fighting this
Vanguard infantry.
comfortably
Move
with
it.
Victor and the Kolo.
Mark target.
What's it this time?
What
One of our units is now veteran.
Nice, we did it, we won.
Something to report?
So now we have our 3 upgrades.
One of our units is now veteran.
We've melted, not a problem. Right, if they have infantry spam, there's great AoE in Victor's abilities with his missile called Rupture. I don't know why. It's a
Enemy
missile.
unit sighted.
And his chain lightning,
There's
great.
plenty to do.
Lots of AoE. Victor also does great versus enemy light mechs. Plus we have our own light mech. We can spread them out. Right? Victor does 90 damage per shot. He's doing more damage than the Kolo by 5. Plus he's got this missile, etc. Oh, he can zap infantry. 300 points of damage with that. And the Kolo comes in, does splash damage, kills 2 models. Easy. So by the 7-minute mark, we have a decent amount of squads.
Ready to
Is
go.
there a plan this time?
So we have the means of fighting light mechs and infantry. And after we get our R2, we get our iron mine upgrade.
Maintenance here.
And we're
need to
waiting
get back to
for-
the fight.
Oil. To get this stuff.
Instruction? Nothing.
Our engineers that built our
work.
workshop can be repairing stuff. Great.
What needs
Upgrade. And we're floating about 200 iron. Right?
You
We're
orders.
reinforced,
Just
reinforce.
give the order. What? Pashul! Pashul! We're not needed for this
They're ready to
nonsense.
go.
Bam.
Follow us to victory. Great
And this is
cover.
the build, right? So this is the build order. We got our double iron oil for our opener. How you fight and divide up a map is going to be up to you and depend on the map, etc. But we got our standard opener, 2 iron, 1 oil. Built our barracks. Built an oil pump.
Pressures normal.
Got our R1. That's sort of like stage 1, right?
Another mission?
Then we
for volunteers.
got our iron mine
Coming to help.
and started building our workshop. When our workshop was done, we built our R2.
Request.
Got our second iron mine upgrade. Advanced
Building
workshop.
upgrade complete.
10 minutes.
We have Access to
We got
improved
plenty of
Rusviet
iron to
resources.
deal with early game aggression. If we're getting killed, we hate it. If you feel the need, you can now build more kolos if you want to. You can wait, save up, get these things. And at any point in time, too, if you feel like you have tons and tons of iron but not enough oil,
Flow steady.
just get a second oil pump upgrade. Not a big deal. It's a little bit of a variation, right? So it all depends on how much fighting's happening.
Tell us when.
Enemy unit sighted.
Oh, look at Zubov's here. Scary. Shoot him with a missile. Or kite him. Got on a gun.
I see it. Gotta get moving.
Right. Right. And of course, how you deal with this stuff, you know, it's all dependent on your skill and your micro, and you'll get better at stuff like this.
Building upgrade complete.
Right. Now our Nagano's ready. Victor's in the back. Getting back shots. Bam. 180 from Victor, not a big deal. So that's the build, and the exact build order will be linked, or the exact build order will be in the description of this video. So again, not a meta build necessarily, not some sort of amazing, super great build, but a build with a concept, a build with a goal,
I see it.
and a build that sets you up with a decent economy and a advanced workshop in a swift manner. First mech hitting the field at 12 minutes. It could be faster, it could be slower, just depends on how the map goes. Thank you guys for watching, I really appreciate it,
Recovering.
and I'll see you guys in the future.